If you're in your 62nd or beyond, it's time to think differently about how you move your body. Because the truth is, not every stretch, workout, or fitness class is helping you. Some of them, even the ones labeled senior friendly, may be quietly placing stress on your heart without you ever feeling a thing. As a cardiologist, I've watched countless older adults follow exercise advice that seemed safe on the surface: daily walks, gentle yoga, even modified gym routines, only to develop troubling symptoms like irregular heart rhythms, rising blood pressure, and fatigue. They couldn't explain, and it's not because they weren't trying, it's because certain exercises, when performed without adjustment for age-related changes, can overwork the heart in silence. Some compress the chest and restrict circulation. Others push the nervous system into overdrive. And a few can even cause hidden spikes in blood pressure that linger long after the workout ends. That's why I'm urging older adults to take a second look at 9 specific exercises. You don't necessarily have to give them up, but you do need to approach them with greater care. Because what protects your heart today could preserve your freedom tomorrow. And what we discuss next might already be part of your daily routine without you even knowing it. Before we dive in, if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you hit that button and turn on the bell so you never miss another health tip made just for you. If you enjoy this video, type 1 in the comments. If not, type 0 to let me know how I can make better content for you. 1. High-intensity interval training. HIIT. The hidden heart strain. If you're over 60, I need you to take this in gently but seriously. There's a workout style sweeping across fitness centers, health apps, and even senior classes. It's called high-intensity interval training, or HIIT. Quick bursts of movement, followed by brief rest. It promises energy, weight loss, and muscle tone. But for your heart, you're aging, a hard-working heart. This kind of exercise can be more harmful than helpful. You see, HIIT wasn't built with the senior heart in mind. It wasn't made for the body that spent decades enduring stress, surgeries, cholesterol, high blood pressure, or the quiet toll of diabetes. These workouts ask your heart to leap from calm to chaos within seconds. And during those bursts, something dangerous happens. Your body releases a surge of stress, hormones, adrenaline, and cortisol designed to fuel you. But in an older adult, they can trigger a storm. Blood pressure shoots up, heart rhythms turn erratic, your oxygen demand rises faster than your lungs can handle. And if you're on medications like beta blockers or blood thinners, the risks multiply fast. I remember one patient, clearly George, Lusherba, a retired firefighter who prided himself on staying fit. After watching a fitness show on television, he decided to challenge himself with daily HIIT routines in his basement. Jump squats, speed push-ups, fast mountain climbers. He thought it was the path to vitality. But one afternoon, his wife found him slumped near the stairs, dizzy, gasping, pal. His heart had entered an unstable rhythm, ventricular tachycardia. He survived, but the damage was real. In the hospital, he looked at me and said, "I didn't think I was pushing that hard." And that's the heartbreaking part. Good intentions, wrong strategy. HIIT isn't inherently bad. For younger adults with strong cardiovascular systems, it can be effective. But after treads with stiffer arteries and slower recovery, it's often too much too fast. There might be no pain, no warning signs, but inside, the heart is working overtime, laying the foundation for arrhythmias, inflammation, and long-term damage. The fitness world may glamorize sweat and speed, but your heart doesn't need to be shocked into health. It needs care, rhythm, and respect. You can build strength without risking a hospital bed. You can stay active without borrowing workouts from bodies 30 years younger. And if HIIT hides this much danger, imagine what happens when seniors perform exercises that involve holding the breath, something many do unknowingly. Especially during strain, that next habit could quietly raise your pressure to dangerous levels. Let's explore that next. 2. Holding your breath during exercise, valvao maneuver, a silent killer. It can happen in a heartbeat, literally. You lean forward to lift a laundry basket, reach down to pull a weed from the garden, or try to push yourself up from a low couch. And without even realizing it, you hold your breath. Just for a second, but that second can change everything. This unintentional habit, known medically as the Valsalva maneuver, may seem like nothing, but for an older adult, especially someone with a history of high blood pressure, heart disease, or vascular issues, it can be a silent trigger for serious harm. When you hold your breath during exertion, pressure builds inside your chest. That pressure temporarily blocks the flow of blood back to your heart, reducing the amount it can pump. Then, the moment you exhale, your blood pressure rebounds sharply, sometimes dangerously high. For someone in their 32nd or 42nd, the body often adjusts. But at femoksheds, tisher, or older, that rebound can rattle the entire cardiovascular system. It can damage delicate blood vessels in the brain, disrupt heart rhythms, or in some cases, lead to a stroke. I remember one man well, Mr. Calvin, a 74-year-old retired postal worker who lived alone but stayed busy tending his yard. One morning, while pulling out a stubborn tree root, he strained and held his breath without thinking. That evening, he walked into my office pale, dizzy, and confused. A scan revealed he'd experienced a small but dangerous stroke brought on by a sudden blood pressure surge. He told me he'd done this kind of thing for years, never imagined something as simple as holding his breath could cause so much damage. But that's exactly the risk. It's not about extreme workouts or heavy weights. It's about everyday effort chores. Gardening, even standing up. When you hold your breath, your heart works harder than it needs to. And that can have serious consequences, especially for those on medications like beta blockers or diuretics, which already influence how your heart responds to stress. The solution is simple, but it requires intention. Breathe out during effort. Exhale as you lift. Carry or push. Inhale as you relax. That rhythm can save your heart from strain. I tell every patient your breath is your built-in pressure regulator. It can protect you or harm you, depending on how you use it. And just like breath control, there's another movement pattern that many seniors are told is good for strength, but when done wrong, it can turn against you, especially when heavy weights get involved. Let's take a closer look at that next, Tinks. 3. Heavy weightlifting. The pressure your arteries can't take. There's a quiet belief held by many older adults that if you're not straining, you're not doing enough. That pushing harder, lifting heavier, and grinding through the discomfort is what keeps you young. But after treads, especially if you've lived with heart disease, high blood pressure, or circulation problems, that belief can quietly turn into a serious threat. Heavy weightlifting might look like strength, but for the aging heart, it can be a dangerous form of stress that the body is no longer built to carry. I'm not here to take away your strength or independence. I know what it means to want to stay capable, to keep up with the grandkids, to feel like you're still in control of your body. But heavy lifting, especially overhead presses or max effort sets, can create a dangerous surge of pressure inside your arteries. During those moments of strain, your heart is forced to pump through a tightened, constricted system. That sudden resistance sends your blood pressure skyrocketing, sometimes over 300 millimeters systolic. And for an aging circulatory system already stiffened by years of wear, that kind of pressure can tear through your protection in seconds. One man I cared for, Richard, age 70, a retired mechanic, was a regular at his local fitness center. He'd been lifting weights for years, proud of staying tough. One day, determined to match his younger gym partner, he added more weight to a barbell and pressed it overhead. Halfway through the lift, he froze. His arms dropped. He couldn't catch his breath. At the hospital, we found that the pressure had ruptured tiny blood vessels in his heart, sending him into early-stage heart failure. We managed to stabilize him, but he never returned to that baseline of strength. I remember him saying, "I just wanted to feel strong. I didn't think it could hurt me like this." And that's the hard truth. Aging changes everything. How your arteries expand, how your heart handles stress, how your body recovers. Heavy lifting puts all of that at risk, not over years, but sometimes in a single rep. That doesn't mean strength training should stop. In fact, it's essential, but it must be reimagined. Light resistance bands, small, manageable weights. No overhead strain, controlled breathing, movements that support balance, not break it. And while heavy weights are one danger, there's another that hides behind soft lighting and calm music. A form of movement that looks peaceful, but can quietly overwhelm your heart the moment the room heats up. Let's talk about that next. 4. Hot yoga, the heat that overheats your heart. There's something soothing about heat. As we grow older, our joints stiffen, our muscles lose their bounce, and the promise of warmth feels like a comfort we've earned. So, when a class like hot yoga promises to ease the body, flush out toxins, and leave you feeling renewed, it's easy to believe it's just what you need. But for seniors, especially those with heart concerns, that heat can become a silent hazard. And while I'm not here to take away anyone's joy, I am here to speak truthfully. Hot yoga may feel healing on the surface, but inside your body, it can quietly push your heart toward crisis. When you step into a room heated to over 100 degrees with added humidity, your body begins to adjust immediately. Your blood vessels expand. Your heart beats faster to help regulate your internal temperature. You sweat more than usual, losing key minerals, sodium, potassium, magnesium faster than you can replace them. These electrolytes aren't just numbers on a lab sheet. They're what keep your heart rhythm steady and your blood pressure within safe range. Now, consider that you're in your 72nd or beyond. Your arteries are no longer as flexible. Your medications might already influence how your body handles heat, fluids, and pressure. In that moment, what seems like a calming workout becomes a cardiovascular challenge. I once treated a woman named Clara, teacher art, a retired music teacher. She had taken up hot yoga after hearing about its benefits from her daughter. She was strong, vibrant, eager to try something new. But halfway through class, she felt dizzy, then fainted during a pose. At the hospital, her electrolyte levels were dangerously low, and her heart had slipped into an irregular rhythm. She was lucky we caught it. But the fear in her eyes stayed with me. Clara now does her stretches at home. She opens the windows. She moves slowly. She follows her breath, not the heat. She's learned, as many have, that the warmth you need in life doesn't have to come from a heated room. It can come from gentle movement, good music, and listening to your body with compassion. And while hot yoga presents its own challenges, there's another form of exercise, one that feels energetic and fun on the outside, but for the aging body, can shake the heart and joints in all the wrong ways. Let's talk about that next. 5. Jumping or bouncing movements. Jarring for the heart and joints. Movement used to be effortless. It came with laughter, with energy, with youth. Jumping rope with your children. Dancing through the living room. Bounding upstairs 2 at a time. And it's natural, as we get older, to want to hold on to that feeling, that spark. But the truth is, not every movement that once felt joyful is safe for an aging heart and body. I've seen what happens when older adults try to keep up with high-energy workouts that involve jumping, bouncing, or sudden jolts. Movements that seem harmless on the surface, but underneath quietly stress the heart and strain the joints in ways the body can no longer absorb. I'm talking about routines like jumping jacks, bouncing aerobics, quick step-ups, even high-impact dance moves. They're often packaged as energizing or senior-friendly, and they can look fun until they're not, because after treads, your muscles don't rebound as fast. Your bones may have thinned. Your joints may carry wear, and your arteries no longer stretch like they used to. Every bounce sends a jolt through your knees, hips, and spine, and each landing challenges your heart with a quick spike in demand. Blood pressure jumps, heart rate surge. Oxygen needs rise. A woman I cared for, Diane, age 71, came into my clinic not long ago. She had recently joined a senior fitness class called Bounce and Burn. It was upbeat, lively, and she loved the music. She wanted to stay young, to feel included, to keep moving. But 2 weeks in, she noticed a tightness in her chest after class. Her legs felt shaky. She thought it was just sore muscles. But testing showed her heart rhythm had become irregular, and her blood pressure was unstable, reacting erratically to even small physical exertion. It wasn't just fatigue. It was her heart warning her it couldn't keep up. What makes this so concerning is how subtle the damage can be. Just minutes of bouncing done several times a week can quietly erode your heart's rhythm control. It doesn't take hours. And it doesn't come with flashing lights or dramatic pain. Sometimes it just feels like tiredness, or breathlessness, or a flutter in your chest. The good news is that movement doesn't have to be harsh to be effective. Diane now walks in her neighborhood, takes water aerobics, and practices gentle stretching. She's stronger now, not from pushing harder, but from protecting what matters most. And while bouncing may shake your heart, the next type of exercise might wear it down even more slowly by pushing for endurance past the point of balance. Let's talk about that next. 6. Long distance running. Too much for a tired heart. We've grown up with the message that running is the key to youth. That pounding the pavement mile after mile keeps your body sharp and your heart strong. Across America, we've seen images of older adults crossing finish lines, medals swinging from their necks, celebrated for their endurance. But what those photos don't show is what I see behind closed doors. Seniors, well-meaning, health-conscious, whose hearts are quietly breaking down from years of long-distance running they believed was protecting them. Running can absolutely be powerful. It brings clarity. It builds commitment. But after treads, the game changes. The heart you've carried for 6 or 7 decades isn't the same as it once was. The arteries may be less flexible, the valves may be a little worn, and the tissue itself, stretched and stressed from a lifetime of beats, may not respond kindly to prolonged elevated strain. The problem with long-distance running isn't always immediate. It's the way it quietly overworks your heart day after day, asking it to push harder and longer than it's built for. Now, I think of James, a 66-year-old retired carpenter who had run 5 miles a day since his 40s. Running, he said, was how he stayed sane. But over time, he started noticing strange palpitations after his morning jogs. He brushed it off, but eventually, the fatigue became heavier. His heart, as we discovered, was in atrial fibrillation, beating out of rhythm, unable to pump properly. His left atrium had enlarged. His heart muscle had changed shape from years of strain. What had once been his therapy was now threatening his health. This isn't about discouraging movement. It's about recognizing how endurance needs to evolve with age. After 60, pushing for distance can backfire. The research confirms that extended cardiovascular strain increases your risk of atrial fibrillation, internal scarring of the heart muscle, and decreased efficiency in how your heart pumps. That doesn't mean you stop. It means you shift. James now walks daily, bikes on weekends, and still feels the freedom he once found in running just without the wear. He says he finally stopped chasing miles and started honoring his body. That shift saved his heart. And while distance running may wear your heart down over time, there's another movement that seems harmless because it's still and quiet. But for many seniors, it can quietly drive blood pressure sky high and send the heart into rhythm chaos. Let's take a closer look at that next. 7 planks or static core holds. Isometric stress on blood vessels from the outside. It doesn't look like much. You're lying still. Elbows grounded. Body straight. Holding your core tight while trying not to shake. No jumping. No pounding. no movement at all, just a plank. And to many, especially in physical therapy or yoga circles, it's considered safe. One of the go-to moves for building strength without wear and tear. But for older adults, that stillness can quietly turn into a cardiovascular strain that's far more serious than it seems. The plank, along with other static core holds, requires something called isometric contraction, where muscles tighten without changing length. And while it may feel steady, that constant internal bracing sends pressure through the body in ways that a 60 t-shirt or 80-year-old heart may no longer be equipped to handle. As your muscles stay locked, your blood vessels become compressed. The heart must pump harder to move blood through that tightened system. That effort can cause a sudden spike in blood pressure, even if you don't feel it right away. If you're unknowingly holding your breath during the hold, which many people do, that pressure can climb even higher. And for seniors, especially those with a history of high blood pressure, irregular heartbeats, or vascular disease, that spike isn't just uncomfortable. It can be dangerous. I've seen it happen. There was a patient of mine named Margaret Tischerson, a retired librarian who prided herself on staying independent. Her daughter had helped her find a core workout video online. She followed along every morning, holding a plank for 30 seconds at a time. She said it made her feel in control strong. But within a few weeks, Margaret began experiencing headaches, then dizziness. At first, she thought it was dehydration. Then one morning, her blood pressure surged, and she felt chest pressure that brought her into my clinic. Her heart had thickened slightly under the strain, a condition we often see in people whose blood pressure has remained too high for too long. The quiet tension of those daily holds was forcing her heart to work harder than it needed to. Margaret was shocked. She told me, "I thought because I wasn't moving, I was being gentle." But stillness, when paired with force, is not the same as rest. That doesn't mean giving up on core strength. You just need safer alternatives, movements that engage the muscles without trapping the cardiovascular system. Gentle twists, slow marches, supported balance work. Margaret now trains with a senior fitness specialist and says she feels stronger without feeling strained. And that's what I want for you. 2. But while planks can stress the heart through stillness, there's another practice common in yoga and stretching routines that flips the body upside down, promising clarity and calm. But for seniors, it might send too much blood toward the brain, the eyes, and the heart itself. Let's talk about that next. 8. Inverted positions. When blood rushes where it shouldn't, to someone watching from the outside, it might look sehr naiv elegant. A mat on the floor, arms rooted, legs lifting skyward. Maybe it's a gentle forward fold, a supported shoulder stand, or just legs resting up against a wall. These poses are often praised for boosting circulation and calming the mind, and for younger bodies, they can offer certain benefits. But for older adults, especially those managing heart concerns, these inverted positions can quietly trigger dangerous changes inside the body. I've spent my life caring for aging hearts, and I can tell you, positions where the head drops below the chest or the legs rise above the torso aren't always gentle. They can be deeply stressful. Inversions shift blood downward with force. The pressure increases in the chest, head, and neck, And while younger circulatory systems can manage this shift, the aging heart, with its stiffened arteries and slower reflexes, often cannot. Blood pressure can surge, heart rhythms may become erratic, and in some cases, fragile blood vessels, especially in the brain, may not withstand the sudden rush. A woman I treated named Betty Tishawu loved her weekly yoga class. It gave her purpose, community, and peace. The instructor encouraged restorative inversions, simple poses, like legs up the wall or seated forward bends. Betty enjoyed them. She said they helped her sleep, but then the dizziness started. She blamed it on skipping breakfast. Later came the shortness of breath and blurred vision. Finally, one afternoon during a reclined pose with her feet elevated, her heart began racing. Her chest tightened. She was rushed to the hospital, where we diagnosed her with supraventricular tachycardia, a rapid heart rhythm that can escalate quickly if untreated. The trigger, a shift in blood flow her heart couldn't adapt to. Betty was shaken. "I just wanted to do something good for myself," she whispered. And that's what makes this so painful. So many older adults are doing their best, but when a posture meant to bring calm ends up overwhelming the cardiovascular system, the results can be devastating. The good news is, you don't need to invert your body to support circulation. Upright stretches, seated breathing exercises, and gentle standing movement all bring flow and peace without shocking the heart. Betty now practices yoga from a chair. She still feels centered, still feels strong, but now she understands her heart's limits and listens more closely. And as we move forward, know this, even exercises that seem light and easy, especially in group settings, we can hide risks if they aren't tailored for the aging heart. Let's take a closer look at one final example in the next section. 9. Group classes with no modifications. There's a kind of magic in moving together. The music, the shared rhythm, the laughter echoing through a community center gym or a YMCA studio, whether it's silver sneakers, gentle aerobics, or a low-impact dance class. Group fitness offers more than just physical movement. It gives structure, it gives company, and most importantly, it gives a sense of belonging. For many older adults, it's a lifeline. But as someone who's worked with aging hearts for decades, I need to tell you something that isn't often said. Group classes that don't offer proper modifications can quietly place your heart under stress, especially when you're trying to keep pace with people who aren't carrying the same history inside their chest. It often starts innocently. A new class, a friendly instructor, upbeat music. The warm-up feels manageable, but the energy builds, movement get quicker. Everyone around you seems fine. You push to keep up, not because you want to compete, but because you don't want to feel left behind. The pressure to follow the group is real, even when your body is whispering that it's had enough, and this is where danger creeps in. I remember one of my patients, Robert, age 70, recently retired and eager to stay active after losing his wife. His neighbor invited him to a community fitness class. It sounded perfect. Light cardio, simple strength moves, social connection. But the instructor, though cheerful and well-intentioned, wasn't trained in adapting routines for older adults. There were few rest breaks, no modifications offered. and the tempo remained high throughout. Robert did his best to follow along, even when his breathing got shallow and his legs began to tremble. After one particularly intense session, Robert left class feeling lightheaded. In the parking lot, he collapsed. His heart had gone into ventricular tachycardia, a dangerous rhythm that can stop the heart without warning. Paramedics arrived quickly. He survived, but the emotional toll stayed with him. In my office weeks later, he told me, "I just didn't want to look weak. I didn't want to be the one who couldn't keep up. That's what breaks my heart." No one should have to choose between community and safety. Group classes should lift you up, not push you to the edge. But unless the instructor is trained in senior fitness, unless they understand how to adapt movements for arthritis, balance issues, or cardiovascular limitations, the class can become a risk, no matter how cheerful the environment. The issue isn't movement, it's personalization. Every heart is different. Everybody has its own story. Your job is not to match the crowd. It's to honor what your body can do today without shame, without apology. Robert now works privately with a trainer who specializes in cardiac recovery. He still moves. He still smiles. But he's no longer chasing the pace of the room. He's found strength in listening. And if a group class ever makes you feel like ignoring your limits is the only way to belong, step back. You deserve to be safe. Because in the end, it's not about doing more. It's about doing what keeps your heart beating steady for the years to come. And that brings us to the final, most important message. Because movement, when done right, isn't just about avoiding harm. It's about rediscovering how to protect, nurture, and honor the heart that's carried you through a lifetime. Let's bring it all together now. Your heart has done enough. Your heart has carried you through a lifetime. It has moved with you through decades of work, family, loss, love, and everything in between. And now, it's time for you to carry it with care. You've just learned about 9 exercises that, while often recommended, can quietly strain the aging heart, disrupting rhythm, spiking pressure, and wearing down the muscle that has served you without pause for over 70 years. The risk doesn't come from laziness or bad choices. It comes from trying too hard to do what once worked, without realizing how your body has changed. That's not failure. That's reality. And there's power in honoring it. Think of your heart not just as an organ, but as a witness to your life. Billions of beats, every single one showing up for you. It doesn't need to be tested, it needs to be supported. I've seen older adults thrive, not by doing more, but by doing what's right for them now. When they slow down, modify, breathe deeply, and listen closely, the results are remarkable. Steadier energy, less fear, more freedom. So from this moment forward, move with intention. Choose what brings strength without strain. Trust that you are not falling behind. You are moving wisely. That is the rhythm your heart deserves. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a comment with 1. If not, feel free to comment with 0. Your feedback means a lot to us. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more content like this. Thank you for watching, and here's to living life on your own terms.